So you're building on AWS. That's awesome. But everything you build, every cool feature, every bit of data, it all sits on a foundation. And if that foundation isn't solid, well, things get messy fast. Today, we are going to architect for trust. We're diving into the absolute must-knows of AWS security, and we're going to start with a question you might not love. Look, I know this sounds a little dramatic, but I have to ask, is your AWS account a ticking time bomb? Because for so many of us, the way we start out, just one single account for everything, it can turn into a huge liability, just waiting for one little mistake to cause a big, big problem. Does any of this sound familiar? Your permissions are just a tangled mess. The blast radius is massive, right? Like one compromised key in a dev environment could literally bring down your production systems. Billing becomes this awful detective story every month. And there is absolutely no separation between your critical apps and that experimental thing someone's building. This all leads to one really bad habit, using that all-powerful root user for stuff you really, really shouldn't be. Okay, so how do we defuse this bomb? Well, it all starts with understanding the number one rule of cloud security. It's not all on you, but it's not all on AWS either. It's a partnership, and that partnership is built on something called the shared responsibility model. This model draws a super important line in the sand. There's security of the cloud, and then there's security in the cloud. AWS takes care of the of part. We're talking the physical buildings, the servers, the network. But you are 100% responsible for securing everything you put in it. Let's break that down. Think of AWS as providing a secure apartment building. They handle the concrete, the rebar, the security guards at the front door. That's their job. But you're responsible for putting a good lock on your own apartment door. That means your data, your apps, and this is a big one, who gets the keys? That's your identity and access management, your IAM. AWS gives you a safe building. It's up to you to be a safe tenant. And that right there is why having just one account is so risky. You wouldn't put your life savings, your work laptop, and your experimental fireworks kit all in one big room with the door unlocked, right? Of course not. The answer is to build more rooms with more doors. We need to architect for isolation using a multi-account strategy. And the absolute game changer for this is a service called AWS Organizations. It lets you manage everything from one place, but you get to create these separate, walled-off accounts for different things. Your production stuff gets its own fortress, totally separate from your dev environment. You can have another account just for security tools, another one just for logs. This isn't just neat and tidy. This deliberate separation is the antidote to that single account chaos. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a lot of overhead. So let's actually walk through what this looks like for a real company, how they go from that chaotic mess to a place of real control. So many stories start this way, right? A single account, root user doing pretty much everything. Then something happens. It's the wake-up call, that one security incident that isn't catastrophic, but it's bad enough to make everyone realize just how exposed they are. That's when things change. The mature company is the one that takes that lesson and builds out a real multi-account architecture, using organizations to isolate everything and finally get control. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why. Now let's get to the how. Let's turn all this theory into something you can actually do. Here are the first steps to take to start building a foundation you can really trust. And to make this work, AWS gives you some amazing automated guardrails. You've got AWS Config, which watches for any changes to your resources. Then there are service control policies, or SCPs, which let you set hard limits on what's even allowed in an account. And my personal favorite, AWS CloudTrail, which is like a security camera recording every single API call. Keep these in mind, because they're the tools that are going to enforce the rules we're about to set. All right, here we go. 5 things you can do like today. Step 1, enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, on your root account. Seriously, if you do nothing else, do this. It's the master key to your entire kingdom. Protect it. 2, stop using the root user for everyday tasks. Create an admin user with IAM and lock the root user away. 3, set up AWS organizations. This is the first step to building that multi-account structure. 4, create your first new account. A logging account is a perfect place to start. It keeps your audit trails safe and separate. And finally, step 5, turn on CloudTrail in all regions. Log everything, because you cannot secure what you can't see. So we've gone all the way from this core idea of a partnership with AWS to a concrete 5-step plan. Every one of these steps helps you move from just reacting to problems to actively preventing them, to architecting trust right from the start. So I'll just leave you with this. what's the very first step you're going to take?